Hello, this is Cynthia at Mountain Accents. Today I'm bringing you a different kind of video. I decided to do my thoughts, my review on the Atelier Jupe Tilde shirt dress, and tell you a little bit about what I think. Please excuse the lighting. I'm in a different location and I was having trouble with the lights. This is my second time of filming this review, and the first one I was just not happy with and filmed it a few days ago, and so I deleted it and I'm starting over. But I'm going to start with what I'm wearing. Today I'm wearing a ready to wear dress for a wedding. I'm going to a wedding later today, and I decided to buy a dress instead of ordered it online from Chico's. It's the only time I've ever paid full price for a dress, but I really wanted to look nice for my niece's wedding, and I didn't have time to make one of my own, and so yeah, I ordered a dress. And speaking of dresses, I wanted to tell you a little bit about why I started or had the desire to learn how to sew. Is that I was having trouble finding dresses in Belk and the other shops that are local to me. A few years ago they carried lots of dresses, and then as in recent years it seemed like it was either zero dresses or very few dresses, and none were in the styles that I liked or fabrics I liked, and it was like they were getting cheaper and cheaper made. And so that's one of the reasons I wanted to learn how to sew, and I wanted to be able to make dresses, even though I have found that I enjoy making lots of other garments, and my goal is to make a me-made wardrobe that has mostly me-mades and very few store-bought items. So today is all about this pattern, the Atelier Jupe Tilde shirt dress, and this is my second Atelier Jupe pattern. And so yeah, it is a 3 out of 4 rating for their patterns, so for level difficulty. And even though I'm a beginner, I believe a confident or more advanced beginner can tackle this dress. And so when I first saw this pattern on Andrea and Cerys' website, Beyond the Pink Door fabric shop in Ireland, I fell in love with this dress as the model's wearing with this fabric. I really wanted to make it in that fabric, but I couldn't fathom spending that kind of money on fabric when I didn't know if I would be able to successfully make the garment. So I opted not to purchase that fabric, even though I was in love with the fabric and the pattern. And now I'm not sure if that fabric is still available anywhere, but yeah, I would still love to have it made in that. So let's get started into what I think. So since my last video, and I've told a little bit about it, I jotted down a few notes and did some conversions on sizes, because the Atelier Jupe pattern, I think it's a Belgian, either Belgian or French company, but they do have several languages in their book. So it has one for the Netherlands, it has French, and even though I know a little French and I can read a little bit, I don't know enough to be able to interpret the directions completely. And then there's the English. So they first start off with to measure yourself. So I took my measurements, and I am roughly a 40-inch bust, 34-inch waist, 41-inch hip. It varies a little bit, but it's still pretty close to that this year anyway. And so this, for the actual measurement of your body, it comes from a EU size range of 34 to 52, the UK size of 6 to 24, and that converts to a bust measurement of approximately 33 inches to 50 inches, waist of 27 to 44 inches, hip of 36 to 52 inches. And it's drafted for a height of 5'6", and I'm just barely shy of 5'6". So I just say I'm 5'6". So anyway, you got to add that little 1/4 inch on there, right? And so then for finished garment measurements, it gives you a bust of 39 to 49 inches, waist of 37 to 54 inches, and a hip of 45 to 61 inches. So it has a really good, I think a really good size range. And for myself, for the first Atelier Jupe pattern that I made was the Atelier Jupe Frida shirt blouse, and I made a straight size 14 and it fit great, and I opted to do straight UK size 14 for this dress. I'm very happy with that fit. Now as far as the directions, I guess one of the reasons it's more advanced is that it doesn't always give you the best, I guess. They're good directions, but in some places there could be better directions. And so, and there's a lot of pieces cut out, but it does give you several options. And I was going to let you know what fabric is good for this pattern. It says you can choose a lightweight fabric like viscose, tencel, non-static polyester. You can use medium weight fabrics like cotton or linen. This one on the model is a viscose. Now my dress back here, that's hanging back here, is a chambray, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a little bit. But it has 11 pattern pieces. Now you don't need all 11 pieces for your dress because you have the option of choosing a regular button placket or a hidden button placket. You can do a collar with a collar stand, or you can do a mandarin collar. So I opted to do, for my dress, the regular button placket because I personally like to see exposed buttons. And I've got pretty black buttons on my dress, which you can't see them right now, but I'll show them to you in a little bit. And I opted to do the collar stand with the collar, even though I like a mandarin collar, but I wanted to mimic as she has here with the regular collar and collar stand. And so my first beginner mistake is I was watching a lot of YouTube videos. I think I was watching the Rachel at Stitched Up Live Sewalong when I was cutting out the pattern, and I just I didn't read my directions, and I just cut out all 11 pattern pieces. So I could have saved myself some fabric for another project if I had paid closer attention and hadn't cut out everything. But I was able to pick what I needed. And so my first thing you do is, let me grab the dress so I can show you. So it has bust darts. And on this fabric, I'm not sure if you can see the bust dart, but it's here. And I feel like my bust darts hit in the right place when I put this dress on. And so that was a fairly easy step. And then you move on to your button placket. And that is where I had no trouble with it. But their directions, let me back up for a minute. So when I made the Atelier Jupe Frida blouse, I didn't read the directions. I had watched Andrea at Beyond the Pink Doors Sewalong video, and then the day that I sewed it, I was watching Rachel at Stitched Up's live Sewalong and sewed it with her. And I know she did, like Andrea, and did a double yoke on, and I have it here. She did a double yoke here on the front and on the back, which on the pattern it did not call for the double yoke in the front. And so yeah, I didn't even read the directions. But one of the things that Andrea did and Rachel did for this one on the button placket is they did the button placket where, and you, let me see if I can hold it up here. You would fold it back and stitch across and then turn it back around to where you have a clean edge. And I believe Andrea hemmed it at that same time. So I wished I had done that on the shirt dress, but I just was reading the directions, and I attached my button placket, and then it has you, they recommend stitching the ditch, which I usually do not stitch in the ditch. I stitch close to it and just edge stitch. So I'd already stitched it down when I realized that, oops, I could have made that the clean corner here by folding it back, stitching across, clipping that corner, and then turning it to get that really clean corner, and like hemmed it at the same time. And so later when I hemmed it, I had, I don't know if you can see that, I've got this thickness where I just had to turn it up when I hemmed it. So that's the first thing that it didn't tell you to do that, and it would have been nice if I had caught it in time. And it's something that I knew to do, but because I haven't sewn a whole lot, when I realized it, it was too late. I didn't want to unpick it because it's a long button placket, because this is a maxi length dress, and I didn't want to unpick that, which it wouldn't have been too difficult, but I opted not to unpick it, and so I left it as is. And so I had no trouble getting the button placket on, and I believe some of you that's followed me know that one of my sewing machines had a part broke, and I had to send it off for repair, so I waited till I got it back before I did put the buttonholes on the dress. So this pattern also calls for, well, I guess I should have left it down, a little yoke at the back, and there's some gathers here, and that was a really nice feature, and so that went in well. Well, then on the collar and the collar stand, so I did have trouble with that, and it was mainly because when I interfaced one piece of the collar and collar stand, and when I went to sew them together, it wanted to, the piece that was not interfaced had stretched, I guess, from handling, and it just did not want to. And so I had to be like sew really well, and I had to be very careful with that. And then when I attached it to the dress, the neckline had stretched some, and I pinned and unpinned, and I attached and, you know, worked with it. And when I sewed it, I have a little pucker here, but it happened to be right in the center of the back of that neckline. And I thought about unpicking it and redoing that, but because I had pinned and unpinned and worked with it for so long, I was afraid that it would stretch out worse if I attempted to unpick it and fix it. So I opted to leave that, and no one, to be honest, you can't tell it when I'm wearing it that it's there. I know it's there. And then the front, where the pucker's at, I've added a little label that says one of a kind. Oh, I'm not even framed. I don't know if it's focusing or not. One of a kind. So yeah, and that like I said, that doesn't bother me. I will be more careful with my next one because I will be making this dress again. And the other thing I wanted to mention about the collar and the belt, because it has a really long belt, is that in the instructions it doesn't tell you to top stitch those. And I have made my very first garment that I ever made with a collar and a collar stand was a Hey June Cheynne tunic, and this is it. And it went in pretty well. It's not perfect, but yeah, those instructions had told you to top stitch. And so I was like, when I was making it, saying, well, this just look better if it's top stitch. And I was like, do you use top stitch or not? And so I started looking for the Hey June online instructions, because I had followed a little tutorial blog that she had online. But when I was searching for it, I actually came across a style arc instructions for putting in a collar, and it was like, had little diagrams, and it was talking about top stitching everything, and I just looked at that and I'm like, yes, that is what this needs. So I did top stitch the collar and the collar stand and the belt. When I put it together, I also top stitched all the way around my belt, and it doesn't tell you to do that in the instructions, but I just think it gives it a better finish. So yeah, and it has a double yoke for the back. I had no trouble with that. And you do like a little burrito method to attach that to give it that clean finish. And the main thing with it, for anyone that is wanting to make this pattern, that's, even if you know how to do a burrito method, is that because it's a maxi length dress, you have a lot of fabric to roll up, and I had to really like stretch it out and try to roll it up as thin as I could to get that material inside of that burrito, and just to not have extra bulk. And so that was, I found it best by laying it on my bed, because I had a big surface area to roll it up on and make sure I had everything just really pulled out of the way. And so that went together well. And the sleeve on the Atelier Jupe Frida shirt dress, the Frida blouse and the Tilde shirt dress are pretty much the same sleeve. They have the gathered cuff at the bottom. So in the instructions, it does tell you to gather this sleeve head here to put it into this cuff. But what I found unusual is that it does not tell you to gather the sleeve head that goes into the armhole, which to me, I was like, well, first I'll tell you that and partly it was because of my buttonhole issue. When I went ahead and jumped steps ahead and like created the belt, even though it tells you to do the belt at the end. I had made up my sleeves, but I hadn't put them in the garment. And so when I get my machine back and I put all my buttonholes on, sew my buttons, and I was flipping through the book, and I get to the part where it tells you to hem your garment, and that's when it tells you to make the belt. It's the very last step. And I had already done that, and I was like, well, when are you supposed to put that sleeve in? And so I go back and I look and I find my directions for the sleeve, and like I said, it tells you to gather your the hem of the sleeves to fit it into the cuff. You just get really excellent instructions for that. It even tells you to finish your seams, overlock them or zigzag them. And so it tells you to divide the fabric evenly between your markings to put it into your sleeve, but it doesn't tell you to gather. Now this pattern has 1 centimeter seam allowance, 3/8 inch seam allowance, so I didn't have room to gather like I normally would gather. And so I want to tell you a funny story here too. So the very first time that I had ever made a woven pattern that called for gathering of the sleeve, I had absolutely no clue what they meant. And so my mom's been sewing for my entire life, and so I actually took that dress and the sleeves with me, and I said, Mama, and the directions, I said, what does this mean? And she had to show me how to do your 2 rows of little gathering stitches to gather it in to fit a woven garment into a sleeve head. Okay, so I didn't have room to do 2 rows of gathering stitches, and I thought, well, I need to do that. So what I opted to do is, because that seam allowance was so small, is I did 1, but I went from my notch at the top here, and I sewed 1 row of stitches down to the notch that's down on this side, and then I started and went down and sewed for the other side. And then I gently, very gently, pulled that shorter distance together, and it didn't need a lot of gathering because there's not a lot of extra fabric there, but it did need a little bit. And when I did that and fitted in, it eased in perfectly, and I had no trouble with the sleeves at all. And I did that for both sleeves. So yeah, that's pretty much it on the dress. So I'll insert a picture somewhere, either in the middle or at the end, beginning, or maybe both, of me wearing the dress. I don't have a lot of pictures that I've taken in it, but I did wear it to church one Sunday, got compliments, and I felt wonderful in the dress. It was exactly what I wanted, and I wore it over black high boots. And yeah, it's a really nice dress, and I will definitely make it again. And I believe I said this in my last video, that I found that Atelier Jupe patterns is a good block for me. They fit me well, and I definitely want to try more of their patterns. So if you haven't made this dress and you want to try something different, I encourage you to do that, because if I can do it, I know you can do it. And I also want to thank all the people who have followed me so far, subscribed to my channel, and has given me encouraging words on the comments. And if you've been watching and you haven't clicked like or subscribe, please do so. I'd love to have you follow me. And I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you're at. Take care. Bye.